gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Life Choices podcast.
yeah!
Welcome back, everybody, to the second season of the Life Choices podcast. Today's guest is Mark Lalor.
I've heard it pronounced many different ways.
Yeah.
Lalor is actually how it should be pronounced, but I'm so used to it.
Yeah.
I've heard it Lalor, ooh la la Lalor. Just kidding. Yeah, it's cool. That's fine.
That's cool. So we typically do a quick little synopsis about, what the guest is kind of like doing or where they're at or where they came from. Just real quick, maybe 30 seconds, a minute of who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah, so I was born and grew up in South Africa. Came over here 10, 11 years ago. Always had a sales background. I sold cars in South Africa, sold cars in London. And I think the reason I went into sales straight out of schooling was I was always grinding as a kid. I would always have to go and get everything myself, and I wasn't given too many opportunities. I had to go and force them, Grew up in a single parent home. Lost my dad just 10 or so days before my third birthday. So so always had to go get something you wanted, go get it. And I think that's why I went into sales. And it's worked, it's great for me, like I said, in South Africa as well as in London. Did that for a couple of years, in London that is, and then unfortunately my working visa expired, so I had to go back to South Africa. But the travel bug had bitten me then. Mm-hmm. And my goal was, okay, I've got to do something. I cannot stay in South Africa, I've got to do something. And stumbled across yachting.
Yay.
Yeah, I feel like it's always a conversation. And flew to Europe and did that for just over a season. Sailed across on a little 40-foot catamaran. Ended up in Annapolis, flew to Fort Lauderdale, and I've never really left South Florida.
Real quickly, only because you brought it up, and if you're okay talking about it, you lost your father when you were 3?
Yeah, just before my third birthday. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that's a huge thing.
Yeah, that's big. That's life-changing.
Yes.
That obviously, you get dealt the cards that you get dealt, and you have to play them.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I was so young, I never really got to know him.
Right.
But lots of photos, little before video, unfortunately, showing our age here. But and it sort of molds the character that you'll one day be.
Yes.
Having just a single parent, I had a couple stepfathers along the way. But yeah, it's mostly a single parent home. And having to help with the bills, pay the bills, cover the expenses in the household. Those are some of the things you have to do. Forced me to grow up at a younger age, I would think, and had to be a lot more mature than maybe I needed to be, and is okay because it's helped me see things a little differently at all times. Just having to know, okay, but what are the repercussions if I go and do that? I cannot just think, all right, I'm going to go do something and life will work its way out. I had to, okay, if I go and do that, and I just quit my job for argument's sake when I was a young man, how am I going to help my mother pay her bills?
Being aware of consequences.
Correct.
With regards to the actions you might take, kind of weighed a bit more on your life.
Yeah. And that's okay. It helped me always try and be the best at whatever I participated in. I was a pretty good athlete at a young age, great at track and field, and I always had that in my head of, you got to do your best, you got to make your mom proud, you got to try and go to that next level, and that's life. You have to adapt, and I think people don't understand or value how important it is to be able to adapt, because change is coming whether you like it or not, and people don't like change.
Inevitably, change happens.
Correct.
Every single day in our lives.
Correct.
And it's how one deals with adversity, which creates or molds the character that they're going to have in life.
Yeah.
So mom was awesome.
Mom was great. Yeah, she
Mom's
raised
great.
4 kids. Yeah,
Four.
yeah.
That was my next question: is siblings and where you are on the ranking of the siblings.
Yeah, so I have 3 sisters, 2 older than me.
Wow.
One younger than I am.
Not knowing that, which I did not know before, is quite shocking. Because I can only imagine what it would be like not to have a full-time father figure growing up. Knowing you as the person you are, I would not assume that would have been your background. You don't hold, it does not seem like you have a chip on your shoulder due to what had happened at a young age. It does not seem like you are, there's many different paths you could have taken due to your situation, the cards you were dealt, and you clearly took a path of struggle, but with a good mindset in order to get you to where you are now, which is in a very good place.
Yeah, no, very, very good place. I couldn't be happier. But yeah, again, I think it goes back to those choices, knowing the repercussions of the choices you make and where you're going to end up. So knowing that, hey, I need to become something, or back when I was at home, my family would not maybe make it, or make it's a bit strong, but at least not flourish, It
would be
tough.
more difficult if you did not choose to be less carefree and more responsible at a time in your life in which you shouldn't have had to be.
Yeah.
So that's admirable. That's very wonderful for a son. Your mother probably really appreciates it. Your younger sister probably really appreciates it. It speaks volumes as to how I would assume you're going to bring up your children when, if, all of that sort of comes into your life. So you have a 6-year-old.
I do.
And I'm assuming because of what you had gone through as a young man, you're probably a wonderful father, attentive, helpful, there.
Yeah, I do my best. I'm in his life. I try to be in his life every single day. And unfortunately, because his mom and I are no longer together, thank God for FaceTime.
Right.
I get to see him on a daily basis and chat and talk and laugh and speak about when we're going to see each other next. And we share him, so it's not that I don't see him for a long time. I see him, pretty much 50% of the time. And it's we just came back from a nice little vacation for 2 weeks in North Carolina.
Nice.
So yeah, I spend as much time with him as I can. Because I didn't have that, as you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, it's important. Again, your reason is was taken from you rather than, someone leaving. I grew up, my father worked 7 days a week pretty much. He was taking care of, 3 boys and a wife and a house and all of that. One cannot understand that until one is in that position of having to fiscally be responsible for other people, food on the table, electricity, all that sort of stuff. And my dad worked 7 days a week. I had a lot of things. I didn't go without. I was very, very fortunate from that aspect, but never understood the appreciation value of it until I left home. Once I moved out at 19 and had to fend for myself and realized that there isn't always food in the fridge. Lights don't go on and the phone don't work if you don't pay your bill.
Yeah, life's not that easy.
It is not. No one gives you the memo when you're a child or a teenager or even a young adult in your 20s, the realities of life, which is it's fucking hard. Clearly no one makes it out alive. Yes, you're supposed to have some fun while you're doing it, but don't be fiscally irresponsible. Take care of your own and help others if you can. But no matter what, it's going to be hard. And that's not a bad thing.
Guaranteed, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you can probably contest to this is the hardships that anyone goes through in life creates the great individual that they are now.
Correct.
And I assume besides, losing your father at a young age, I'm sure between then and where you are now, there had been many hardships.
Many obstacles along the way.
Right?
Yeah. That's life.
Exactly. Was there any other one that was very prominent or that you look at in a positive way? Like, you know what, I'm glad that adversity happened because I was able to push through it and now I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, the one that probably stands out the most was, you may think this is a little crazy, is my stepfather was murdered at the age of 15. I was 15. Yeah, I remember I was still really irritated with him. I was pretty angry that he didn't pick me up that day from school. And he just never came home. I walked home, and it wasn't that far. It was probably 4 miles or so. But you're a 15-year-old kid, teenager. Teenagers are teenagers, you know. It's all about me.
Absolutely.
So I'll never forget that. I was so irritated that he didn't pick me up as he was meant to. And about 6 p.m. that evening, there was a knock at the door. And he had house keys, so it wouldn't be him. And it was the police. And my mother saw that it was the police, and she asked me to take my little sister and just, stay in my room. And then I heard her say hello, and I heard her say, okay, thank you. And then I heard her, scream. She was in a state, as you can imagine, when you hear that about your husband. And then she came to us and gave us a hug, and we just stood there for a while. I remember just thinking, what do you mean? What do you mean he's dead? So, and that was that. And I remember, again, young, didn't know how to control my anger. I had a golf club in my room and just started smashing things. I remember that, just anger, just cannot believe what just happened. And you're wondering, who killed him, what happened. Story was he was hijacked. And he was coming off an exit. I told him to take an exit, and they shot him behind the head. There was 2 guys in the car, one in the front next to him and one behind him, and they shot him in the back of the head. That'll definitely change your life, you know what I mean? So when you had someone come into your life, and was then the two of them, as I know now, 2 people in a household contributing financially goes a long way versus one person, and having it then taken away again is a big step back. And not just that, actually having a male role model or just someone else in the house that gives a different perspective instead of just one parent, so that was the next biggest one probably that I experienced, and I was like, whoa, okay, life is real. It'll come at you real fast. So you can never just take anything for granted. You have to always appreciate every moment and every day. So
while you have it, and it is tough because as we are young people, teenagers or young adults, we do think solely about ourselves. Sure. I mean, I thought solely about myself very close up until late 20s, to be honest with you. And it's when those massive situations happen that hopefully you can step back and then realize the importance of the time you had or the time Definitely. You have with someone. That's 2 massive adversities.
Yeah, my poor mom, she hasn't had much luck with men. Yeah. So shame.
I mean, I want to give your mom a hug right now. Like, Mom, I'm thinking about you. Love you. I love what you did over here because this is a wonderful human being. Honestly, you've always been very warm and welcoming with me. I know we've not really hung out that much, but the times that we do talk have always been important to me, and I'm blown away by the information you're giving me and sharing right now. This is massive. I've not gone through something on that level when it comes to people close in my life or young in my life. Yeah. I've lost my dad 5 years ago. I was obviously I
remember that.
I was 39 or 40 when it happened. I was 39 actually, because it was the summer before, which is easier to deal with, when you're an adult.
Sure.
But you still have that
still tough
loss. Yeah. I mean, I talk to him regularly. I give thanks every day that he's out there watching over me. That's my belief. I mean, damn, kid, you've gone through some shit.
Yeah, man. But that's life. Like I mentioned earlier, it's you have no say in what kind of cards you'll be dealt, and you just have to play them. If you don't adapt, you'll
leave earlier.
Yeah, you'll wither away. So you need to take it, deal with it, and do it in the right way, and then you have to be stronger for it, and you have to push on, and then take those lessons, appreciate life, appreciate every day, appreciate opportunities that may come your way, And
And don't shit on ones that do.
correct, yeah. And appreciate those around you, and choose good people to be around so that, you know, you make the most of every day.
Yeah. Life throws itself at you when things are going good. And something I've learned in the more recent time in my life is that I don't have control over 99% of what happens on a day or in my life. What I do have control over is my reaction
Correct,
to my emotions. So if you're aware of that and you're able to go at adversity when it comes at you, not losing your shit, and trying to kind of backstep a little bit when something happens to figure, okay, why is this happening? How can I react to this? If I react this way, is that really going to help me there? Or if I do it this way, you know, will this happen? The way you reacted to your situations, without a doubt, I have to imagine helped your little sister. Because you could have fallen apart. You could have lost your mind. You could have taken that golf club and gone Motley Crue on other people rather than just the room, which would have put you into a worse situation. You know, your calm demeanor has come through growth, I'm sure.
You always want to be a good person. You don't want to be the guy that is not approachable. It takes time, and I'm still working on it because we all have issues. We all have, you know, some things that set us off, and you have to be able to deal with that. And it really doesn't serve you any good if you lose your temper in any situation, really. Even the worst, it doesn't serve you any good. You have to do your best to stay calm.
Excellent point. I came across this thing the other day. I think I was reading one of my books back there, and it said, if you feel like you're not in that mindset of what you're comfortable with, if something has come at you that is pushing you off of your emotional stability, is to, in that moment, step out of yourself, look at something or think of something that calms you down, and put some time into thinking about why you're allowing that to alter your current emotion. Because that's what we're all full of, regardless who we are, man, woman, old, young. We all have emotions. Whether we use them, whether we admit them, we all have them. And if something has come your way to knock you off your happiness, you have to figure out, why are you letting it? Because it's usually an outside force coming in at you. Figuring out how to deal with that is difficult for most people. I tend to try to put myself mentally where I was when I was traveling around the world, because I've never been happier than when I did that trip, because every day was new. Every day was on my schedule. I wasn't having to do anything for anyone or at any time. It was all about what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. I was very calm and very happy. I get triggered often when working on a vessel by certain positions, and learning at 45 and 15 years in an industry how to manage my emotion when that happens is difficult.
Sure.
It's always going to be there until you look inside and try and figure out why you're allowing that person to affect you emotionally. Not easy for most people. Most people don't even know that they need to look at that and try and figure out how they can live today differently and not allow that person to fuck with their head.
And sure, they just think, you give me a hard time, I'm going to give you a hard time, or whatever, instead of just being, that person's obviously dealing with something, which is why they are the way they are towards you or whatever.
And it's hard because even though I do live a life now of calmness and understanding that I shouldn't let other people affect my emotion or react poorly to my emotion in the heat of the moment, sometimes I do something that later that night I'm like, fuck, dude, you know better.
Yeah.
You know better. You should have just said, okay, sure, no problem. Doesn't mean you're less of a person.
Sure.
Doesn't mean you're kowtailing to them. It just means that you weren't allowing that negativity to come into you, and you were okay and just saying, sure, no problem, and your day wasn't affected. But we're human. We make mistakes.
Correct. I would say try and learn from other people's mistakes. If it's something small and you're not going to put your life at risk, then yeah, you could probably make the mistake and learn from it. But when you're out in the streets or in the bars and clubs, and it's not the best place to maybe be making mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, stand up for yourself.
Sure.
Stand up for others who cannot stand up for
Definitely.
themselves. That's an important thing in my life. Help others who need it. I believe we're here to help others, which will help yourself in the long run. But you do have to have that ability to think in the moment of where will this reaction place me?
Yeah.
And those who don't and do end up down the wrong road, that could end them up, worst case, in jail or, God forbid, dead.
Correct.
And I think we want to make the most of whatever time we're given on this rock. We don't know how much that time is. And when we making mistakes is good.
Sure.
Because every time,
Without a doubt.
yeah, you have to. That's how we learn. How one gets up from their mistake. Again, is character building. But try not to look for it. And if something's coming up in your arena, maybe be mindful of what the repercussion could be. This is all very difficult stuff for most people,
Sure.
because things
Big
happen, in an instance. And in order to react that way, I think you had to have gone through stuff in your past to realize
Correct. What's coming.
what could happen if you do this or that. Understanding situations when you're in them is difficult. But if you keep that level-headedness and understand, okay, wait a second, I can do A or I can do B. B might be the better choice here. I might look less of a man to some people, but who gives a fuck?
okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's a big thing that we can chat about, is other people's interpretation or impression of you doesn't fucking matter.
Sure.
It's how you look at you every night when you go to bed in the mirror. That's
Correct, yeah.
what's important to me. And you're a very strong looking man. You are a very capable man. But I get the sense that in those situations you care less about what people think of you, because you realize the reality of what the situation could cause.
Sure. And over time, I've had to work on that and get there. I'm a father. I don't need to put myself in a place that's going to take me away from, my kid. So yeah, it's all about thinking. Unless he is in danger, it's a very different story. And you, as a parent, you don't think, you just go.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can avoid the situation, let's go, walk him away, or even if he's not there, just avoid it. It's not worth it at the end of the day. And there's only so much I think you can teach yourself without actually experiencing it, either through someone else or by yourself.
A thing that I'm learning, and I love that we talk about this, how at our stages in life, we're adults. We have responsibilities and we're still learning. And I think that's what's important. And for people who are listening and watching to understand, no matter what they're going through, it takes time.
Correct.
Nothing happens overnight. Kobe Bryant didn't become Kobe overnight. It was decades of hard fucking work. Everyone that's watching this right now in 2023, in 2033, if they watch this episode, they're going to be like, wow, look at where he got. And
Correct.
It's again, I'm in a 10-year process in my brain of where I'm going to get to. And it's with everything in life, becoming a better human, becoming a better friend, becoming a better son, a better brother, becoming a better everything. It takes daily practice of figuring it out. It's not easy. We live on a rock that is difficult in a world that has obstacles constantly, and navigating through it is very difficult. When you become wealthy financially, it doesn't clear the problems. It makes life a little easier to deal with the adversity that comes at you.
Yeah.
We've talked of some heavy stuff already.
Yeah, very heavy.
Very heavy, which is fine. That's what we're here for. I find that the podcast is very therapeutic for both the guest and myself. I'll get a chance to talk about things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise talk about. And most people sitting in that chair feel very comfortable sharing with our audience, which I'm very thankful for. So thank you for that, because those two situations in your youth is not what most people deal with. But hearing that a visibly strong individual who they're seeing on TV right now has gone through those things and survived. I think that's the bigger picture, and that's the bigger message here is getting to that point.
Definitely. Not just survived, thrived.
Thrived, exactly. There you go. And you are thriving, because we talked about this off camera a little bit, which was funny, because you had reached out to me the other day, being that, you know, I'm doing a podcast here for a fair bit, and you're starting one, which is an interesting avenue to go down.
You would know.
I would know. When this episode airs, it'll probably be close to the 30 episode. There's some statistic out there saying that you're in the 5% of podcasters if you make it past 22 episodes.
Nice.
Think about how many podcasts are out there, but then think about how many podcasts have tried to be out there. Individuals who want to do this but might not have the information or the realization of what
goes into it.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's hard work. It's time consuming. There's a lot of information and a lot of learning, especially for someone like yourself and I, because we're getting into an industry that's been around for about a decade or more, where younger people have grown up with the technology,
sure.
So it was quicker for them to learn, or they've used the technology as they've been growing, where I personally am learning quite a lot, and those fields that I had hired people to work with me, I'm now taking on to myself. So I learn more about what I'm doing, and in the future when I hire people again, I'm going to know more about what it is I'm looking for, and I'm also going to know what they're talking about when they say this, that, and the other. The podcast name
is Red Divide.
Red Divide. And are you launching that just on YouTube? Is it YouTube visual? Is it audio only?
It's going to be YouTube visual.
Yeah.
And it'll be on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc. It's about one of the oldest rivalries in English football. It's Manchester United and Liverpool, and those two clubs absolutely hate each other. And it's a lot of banter, it's a lot of back and forth, just a light-hearted discussion between him and I on our two clubs, and where they're going, how they're faring, and a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but a fair amount of insults too between the two of us, and where the two clubs will hopefully end up this season and for seasons to come.
So it's not just sports and it's not just football, but it's specifically these two clubs, past and present, of what they've been doing and are going through.
Correct. And there's only one thing that we do not see eye to eye on, and
that's the footy.
That's the footy. And so we've had huge days, big watch parties, all our friends and family, and especially on those days. And it's
hectic.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll also talk about the other rivals in the league, and it's something to do for fun, something on the side, and we'll see how it all unfolds.
Side hustles are important.
Correct.
It's an arena in which you can become successful and solely do it, but it is an arena in which it takes a lot of time and effort. Yeah. Knowing that the hard work will pay off, because if you stay consistent with it, and if you learn all of the different aspects, the filming, the editing, the social media posting, it'll work out for you. It's been said many times before, obsession will beat talent anytime. And if you're willing, the thing is you have to be willing to be obsessed with any endeavor that you do, that you have a vision and a passion for that other people don't. They're not going to understand why you're doing it. They're not going to understand why you might become a recluse, because you need to focus on the time needed to put into becoming whatever. You won't have support from people until there's something to support. It's something you have to be comfortable with. You have to be comfortable with people saying shit about you. You have to be comfortable with being alone, even though you have a fellow host. You have to be comfortable having people bet against you. And you have to have the mindset of being okay with that.
Yeah.
Doing those long hours where there are nobody patting you on the back and nobody reaching out to you saying, job well done, that's going to be there. You'll have a day one. You'll have some day ones that get it. We laugh about this because my boy TJ, he knows he gets mentioned in every fucking episode. It's going to be interesting to see how many episodes he wasn't mentioned in, because I do talk about it every time. But the reason why is because he's my day one. He's watched every single episode of every single thing I've done. And he doesn't just do this for me.
Sure.
This is the way he is with all of the people in his life. He supports all of his friends on no matter what it is they're doing, because he sees no harm in doing that. That is what you hold on to when you notice that you only have 50 followers. But you're like, I don't get it. That one video I put up got 2,000 views. Why do I only have 50 followers? Well, that's just the way it fucking works.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But if you have one or two of those people, which I feel like you will have, because you have a small group of people that you know you can count on, hold on to that while you're doing all the work. Whatever the question is, whatever the answer is, if you have that, everything in the middle is not needed. And that just comes in time, like understanding what that means. And when you go into editing, it's knowing what parts to pull out, because at the beginning, I believe shorter is better. 45 minutes, I want to say, is a good happy area.
Yeah.
Everything you do with regards to sports and travel for sports, you got to document.
Sure.
2 days ago, the world beat me. Like, I mean, beat me up fucking good. There was multiple different things that kept happening that I was just like...
The day to forget.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? What the fuck is going on today? And at the end of the day, I went to bed early. I was in bed at 7 p.m. I'm like, I need to wash this day away. This is retarded. I couldn't handle my reaction to my emotions because so many things were happening. And I went to bed and I still gave thanks and I still prayed and I do everything that I do in my daily routine. And the next morning, as soon as the alarm went off, I gave me no excuses. I got the fuck out of bed. And I said, I'm going to win. I'm going to fucking win. And I fucking killed it. I did so much in that one day that I was like, what, yesterday, what?
I remember having a few days of thinking, wow, this is not just a bad day, it's been a bad week. I've got to, put this to bed now and wake up the next day and be like, I won't let that happen again. Everything's going to be positive. I'm going to try and get the best out of today and start a whole new pathway. So I look forward to the struggles, because as you said earlier, the struggles, help mold character and will help maybe mold the business model and how it all comes together. But
if you have this vision and you feel that this is the purpose you have in life, fucking go after it. That's the biggest message I want to give people is whatever the fuck's in your heart, whatever's in your brain, if you can see it up here,
you can
there's a reason for it. Like that's in there because that's a possibility.
Go get it.
Go get it, but you got to work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you clearly have a good work ethic, obviously. It seems like whatever job you take on, you're going to excel at because you understand what responsibility is.
Yeah.
You understand that, the job is needed to take care of home, household, family, whatever. Every single human being is dealing with shit.
Correct.
That's it. We all have stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it might be. Knowing that everyone else has it as well, I think is good, because then you will hopefully treat people nicer, because those of us who are the nicest usually are going through the toughest, because we don't want someone else to have to deal with the way we feel. And I think having that compassion for other people will go a long way as well. It speaks volumes the way you hold yourself and discuss things when it comes to trust and everything. As do myself, have a small group of people that I associate with. I don't have 100 friends. I don't want 100 friends. Yeah. I like the 3 or 4 that I have that I see daily, the 4 or 5 extra that on occasion when they're in town I get to hang out with. Those that I know you hang out with on a regular basis are wonderful human beings. They bring lightheartedness and positive energy more than most people I know. And I'm speaking about Ronaldo and Kyle. Sure. Hopefully you're still friends with them. I don't know.
Yeah, very, very close, unfortunately.
Yeah. But, they are just 2 wonderful human beings that, regardless of how detached I may have become from the group of friends that I was once with, when we all first met 10 years ago, they've proven time and time again that I can call them on a whim and they'd be there. They would do whatever it takes. And sharing the fact that having a small group of friends, I think, is very important to people. We didn't always have that, right? I grew up every 2 years changing schools. I was the new kid. I got beat up. Didn't really ever find my tribe if you may. Yeah, it's important for us men to have other men that we can lean on and
Correct.
talk to. You know, that's another topic I like to discuss every now and again on the show is the importance of, as a man, being able to talk to people that are close to you and not worrying about being judged when divulging certain information. There was a story, a reel, whatever, out there not too long ago of a certain fighter. He had just won a match, and unfortunately he had lost a friend a couple days before. He had committed suicide, and he said, he talked about the stigma that men have about not being able to talk, where like women can just talk about their feelings and it's not a big deal. And there's some men that'll watch this and be like, oh, fucking drink a cup of cement and harden the fuck up, you pussy. Whatever. Everyone's got their own thing. This particular gentleman was like, you know, the quote was, "I'd much rather have had my friend cry on my shoulder than for me to have to hold him up on my shoulder at his funeral." Like that was like, not the exact quote, but that fucking hit me hard, right? Like I cried when I was watching this story or TikTok or whatever it was. It's nice to talk with other men that are okay with talking about this sort of things.
Yeah, you need someone that you can, if you're going through hardships, whatever it is, whether it's divorce or just work issues or life in general, you need to have another guy that sort of understands your situation and knows you pretty well. That you can then, you know, you'll feel comfortable to be able to open up and say, "Hey, dude, man, I'm struggling at work, this, that, and I might get fired," or whatever it may be. Or I'm struggling at home, me and the missus, or, you know, we're talking about divorce or whatever it may be. You need to have close friends that you can open up with, have a chat, and maybe they can help guide you. Or you just need to get it off your chest. Be like, okay, cool. Let's go back and shoot some things. Now we're done.
Yeah.
Line up those targets. Let's shoot some guns, but I'm done. You know what I mean? But you need to have that little break of, okay, this is what's going on, this is what's bothering me, and then you get back to life.
Even if it is just to have that guy listen.
Correct.
Is important. And knowing as the individual who's being talked to sometimes you are talking to an individual not because you want advice, you just need someone to listen. And you have to remember that when they're talking, it might be the same thing. A couple years back was going through some stuff, and he called me up and said, "Hey, can you meet me for lunch?" 1,000%, dude. Like, fucking, don't have to ask me twice. Boom. And he opened up to me that day and told me what was going on in his life and whatever. And I didn't have to give advice. I just needed to, and I got it. I understand. And he got out of his funk, no problem. But the fact that he chose to talk to another man about what was going on inside his head, and I do it all the time with him. You know, I got a couple guys on this compound that I have no problem sharing what's going on. When the things are embarrassing in your life, or if you're going through a divorce, that's something that one could look at as a failure because something's not working out. And bringing that conversation up to another man, you're being very vulnerable. And unless they are a very close group of people, you wouldn't feel comfortable talking to them about it.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, to me, it's one of the most important things in my life. Like, my family's in another country. I can call them whenever I want, but they're not going to understand totally what I'm going through because they're not going through what I'm, you know, my environment.
Yeah.
But talking to those people that know you, like you said, those who know you the most,
they're like your family. Yeah.
And they're going to know you want to talk about something before you actually talk about it.
Correct. They'll see you down, or they'll see you not yourself. What's up, Brad? What's going on?
That's a thing I've been doing lately when I run into somebody, even if it's a stranger. I did this the other day at the store. You'll come in, I'm going to buy something. I'm like, "How you doing?" They're like, "Oh, I'm good, thanks." I'm like, no. "How are you doing today?" And they stop like, "Oh, wow. No one's asked me that." I was like, "Yeah, I'm a stranger, but how are you doing?" It goes so far. Sure. It changes people. And with your friends, I think it's super important. You know, I'm very grateful that I have my guys, and I know you're grateful that you have your guys. And we're in a time in the world where I think it's totally fine for more men to say, "Listen, I can be vulnerable with my friends because I need to sometimes."
Yeah, for sure. You like you said, you need your tribe. You need the guys you know you can go to war with. Because not just from a physical aspect, but as you say, from a mental aspect, it's, especially nowadays, I don't know what's going on, but people don't seem to be able to deal with most things in life these days as they were before. Maybe they just will shut it down, or maybe it's diet has led to that. Maybe it's technology. Maybe it's a whole lot of things that are changing in the world that people are affected differently than I think they used to many years ago. But yeah, you need a tight knit crew, without a doubt.
What I'm keen on this topic, because the way the world is going right now is rapidly different than when we grew up. Rapidly different than the way our parents grew up. There's so much technology. AI is now a thing. It's there. It's happening. And the way we've seen the world is changing because there's a lot more verbal people out there and a lot more visible ways to see the truth or the not truth that we've been dealt.
Being a man in today's world is tricky. There's all this talk about being too masculine or
not masculine enough.
Correct, or not masculine enough. You have these two different extremes, and you're like, well, where do you want the man to fit in? Because if somebody kicks down your door and tries to rob you, you're going to want him to be as manly as he can ever be. You want him to be a lion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if the total opposite, if you now want to talk about your feelings and let's say the wife talking about your feelings, you're going to want him to be as open to you, correct,
as possible. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's
Which
a very,
one do you want?
exactly. And I think men in general struggle with that. I think from what I saw the other day, testosterone is low, big time. It's the lowest I think it's been. I think maybe since I've been recording them.
Right now, it is very tough. The way I look at life for me, and I bring it back to this that I mentioned before, it's the zero fucks giving. I have learned how to work on a car because I have a 1987 F-150 that breaks down constantly. So I've become,
good, though.
She does. I've become more masculine because I know how to work on a car now. I can forage for my own food, but I'm okay also with having a conversation with another man in front of a large audience about my vulnerability.
Sure.
So I know for myself where the happy medium is because I continuously celebrate zero fucks giving. The unfortunate thing is the platform in which we live in, which is called Earth, and all that it comes with it, with being judged and brainwashed or informed by different media outlets on how to be and how to live. It's been a more dwelling situation, I think, in the past 5 to 10 years. Where do we go from here? The world's upside down right now.
That's for sure.
And we are currently living in a future that we only saw on TV 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And where it's going to go in the next 15 to 20 is scary as all fuck. It's welcoming. I'm excited for it because I want to see what's going to happen. But these mental and physical problems that we're discussing, I think, are going to be more prevalent. There's going to be more people talking about them. And I think that people like yourself and I need to keep talking about what we talk about on large platforms to help those who are out there watching and listening. I think that's a big thing. I think that's, for me at least, that's what I'm doing this for, is to help others to become successful, not just in whatever their passion and their vision is, but to become successful in life. You know,
it's a long road, man.
It is a long, difficult, winding, up and down fucking roller coaster that will throw you adversity and sunshine all at the same time. And sometimes not. Sometimes you're just a day or two, like you said, a week sometimes, of pure shit coming at you, and then rise above it.
Got to be able to adapt.
Yes, adaptation is very important. Absolutely. We've touched on various conversations here. Right off the bat, getting really heavy into your childhood and the adversity that you had dealt with. Some up talk about the new podcast that you're going to be launching soon, or is launched because this is being aired much later than we're talking.
The Red Divide.
The Red Divide. Mark, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Very enjoyable conversation. It's kind of funny because I recorded another episode earlier. I recorded an episode earlier, which is only audio because the camera fucked up. So I don't have the visual, but we're redoing it. But
Nice.
him and I, and you and I, kind of had the same tone of voice during the whole thing, which just made it seem to be so calm and comfortable and easy to talk. So I enjoyed that very much. So thank you. You're going to come on again. There's no question about it, because This is a short podcast. We're going to want to do more episodes, so we have more to talk about. When we do, we'll talk more about the new podcast that will be up and running by then. All of Mark's social information is just down below here. So if you want to listen to the Red Divide, you can contact that podcast through the link below. And Instagram, TikTok, all of the Red Divide will be down below for our viewership to see. If you're supporting us here at the Life Choices podcast, swing on by and support Mark and his cousin at the Red Divide. Even if you don't like soccer, go on by and watch or listen to some of the funny situations that they're making fun of each other because they're family. And just help support other podcasts, because we're here to give you guys information and entertainment at the same time. I do want to thank all of my lifers, everyone that's been here since day one, all my new subscribers as well. I cannot continue doing this without your support and your love, so thank you so much for coming by every week here, Tuesday at 2 p.m. to watch the Life Choices podcast. Of course, all of our information is just down below here if you want to follow us on TikTok, Instagram. We have Facebook as well. If you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out to us through our email, which is down below. Leave a comment, leave a like, share, do all the fun stuff for us. Hit the bell so you can be notified when the next episode's coming out, even though you know it's every Tuesday at 2. And we'll see you next week here on the Life Choices podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now about
The Journey Life Choices podcast.